Hi all. Okay, on to December the 18th. First step is the reserve phase. So we bring the units from the 18th box down into the reserve units box. And the allies get quite a bunch. It's a big day for them if they get most of these guys out, or even some of them. The Germans do ever get that strong armoured unit. It's got a strength of 7, it's got 3 steps, so that's pretty good. There's a few extra conditions that come along on the 18th. They're all highlighted on the calendar here and also on the second last page of the rule book, which is handy as well, because if you do have all the reserves like I've got here, it's not easy to see all these things. You get delayed reserves, which we're going to talk about next. Any unit that's got a date that is 2 days earlier than where you're at. So we're at the 18th. This 3F unit for us is dated the 16th. So this guy can actually be deployed, and he chooses to put him in 907. So he's got to follow the normal reserve unit placement rules. So yeah, so he needs to be 3 away from an allied unit, at least 3 away. Wants to be on a road hex that can trace supply. And then ideally is looking for to be within 3 of a unit in the same division. And I think that's maybe in here, is it? Yeah, he's got a 3F unit down there, so that's within 3, so that's that guy placed. The other couple of new rules are allies now deploy with method B. Up until this time they've been deploying their units with method A, and method B comes in on the 18th, and it's a more relaxed way of deploying their units, so it's very unlikely you're not going to find somewhere to put them on the map. So if you get a deploy reserve, they're going to come out. Also, they can have an out of contact deployment, which I can go through. The last one is if an allied unit was to get into a west wall hex at the moment, we would lose victory points, but I wouldn't see that happening, hopefully not anyway. So next we have the card preparation phase. There was no reinforcement cards for the Germans this turn. They do get some on the 19th. The Allies did get some for the 18th though. Well, they've got a lot of the units in the reserve, so it's obviously to cover for them. I won't show you exactly how the cards do. If I eventually get through to doing a full playthrough myself, which I hope to do, because anyway, I'll go into that in more detail. It's a clever system, switching the cards in and out. Certain cards you get on one day, you know you're not going to get on the next day, and you're not sure what cards you're going to get. So it's a good system. Anyway, these are the 6 cards that he draws in his opening hand for the 18th. So then next we move into the supply phase and check supply. Again, German supply checks don't start until the 19th, so, and the Around.Hex unit which was there is now gone, so there's no checks for the Germans. The Allies do. Don't think this has been mentioned before, but step 2 of this phase, you're allowed to play a bridge engineer's event card from your hand to rebuild the bridge. James doesn't do this. He does have one in his hand, but it also activates the first 1st SS Panzer Corps, so it's a tough one to play for that. There's a couple of cards. I think did they not play one already earlier? This card. Maybe you can see it. This one's got the Bridge Engineers, and it's not such as strong a core that, so it's maybe something more to be used for the likes of that. Anyways, just to point out that you can do that in step 2 of the supply phase. So James decides there's four allied units out of supply. The first one being at 0606. This guy here, you can see he's surrounded, his zone of control is all around him. So he gets a low supply marker. The next one is the armoured unit along here at 1014. Again, we got that one surrounded, so he's in low supply as well. The third one is further down. Let me move the camera a bit. Yeah, so the next one brings up something I spoke about at the end of the last, I think it was the end of the last day, when he drew a card to activate the 8th Corps. And we talked about it, and there didn't seem to be a mention of this unit being here. So I think at the time he must have missed that and thought it was something else, or hasn't just noticed it. And then I wondered, has it maybe been eliminated, or have I missed something? But he points out here, and it is out of supply. I can't trace supply, sorry. So it will get a low supply marker. But I think the card, was it withdrawal under fire, something like that. The card that I said could have been useful for that guy, because I think it allows him to step back, even if he gets to ignore the first German zone of control when he does it, and then he actually would have been in supply. So it's a pity that one wasn't noticed, but however. And lastly, this unit here is still surrounded, so it goes from low supply to being out of supply now. So the conditions that makes things a bit worse for the unit. We can go into that if it comes up. Just stepping back up here though, I believe this unit here is also can't trace supply in hex 0505. The conditions for tracing supply, I don't know if I did mention it before, it takes a path of no more than 4 hexes to try and reach a supply road. It can't go through enemy zone of controls unless there's a friendly unit in the hex. That doesn't matter if it's in an enemy zone control itself as well to start with. If it's crossing a river, if it's an unbridged river, it's the 4 hex distance is reduced to just 1 hex. But that's not applicable here. We can maybe talk about that further in the game. It kind of comes up. So this guy can't get to, because of the Piper unit here, 1, 2, 3, 4. He can't reach this hex, which is probably where he would have got supply from this before by going 1, 2, 3, 4. But the Piper unit's here stopping him from doing that. Now he can trace into here, even though it's German zone control, because like I say, there's an allied unit there. So he could go there, he could even go there, but he can't go there because if there'd been another allied unit there, he would have been able to trace right out there, but there's not. So 1, 2, 3, 4 still doesn't get him to the road. So I think this guy should be in low supply as well. So on to the first German impulse. That was the last thing. Forgot about that. It doesn't mention anything of it, but the last part of the supply phase is at the moment anyway, to remove roadblock markers that are not in both German and Allied communication. I think this was mentioned before when there was one applicable, but this one is in both Allied communication and in German communication, so, and that's the only one on the map. So he's going to activate the 47th Panzer Corps again with card 44, and I just realised they're well spread out, these units. They're anytime I've played, don't get me wrong, I think the strategies James has been using in this game are far better than mine, so it's something got me thinking. I would have all these guys much closer together, but there we've seen in the last video also he managed to get an Allied unit wandering behind the enemy lines, which I had never seen before as well. So there's also some nice strategies going on here. I mean, he's got a unit right down at this is the last hex of the boundary for the 5th Panzer Army, and he's got ones at the top of the boundary. Oh, and that reminds me, was it the last video or the one before? Can't remember, it might have been the first one. James talked about at one point not having enough range to get to Bullingen, to get the fuel marker there, and it was regarding the 47th Panzer Corps, and when I counted out I was like, yeah, you can make it there, you can make it, and he stopped short saying he didn't have the range. Now, I thought by range he meant movement points, but that is actually the boundary, and thanks to John Brown, who commented that he did have enough movement points to get there, but he wasn't allowed to cross that boundary, because that's a boundary for the 5th Panzer Army. So it just shows you all these little things can catch you out. So, activates the 47th Panzer Corps. Now, he's adjacent to this. Well, he does a check for this roadblock, and he rolls high. Yeah, rolls a 10 in fact, so that roadblock comes away without any reserve unit. And I think now he would be able to claim this bridge. But I just noticed a wee bit further on, he mentions he comes back to it and he didn't actually check for this bridge when he got here. I missed that as well. He done the robot check and the robot popped up, but he didn't check the bridge. And unfortunately, he goes back and does a dice roll, and the bridge does actually blow. So it's a bit of a bummer. I don't think he moves the units until he realises that though. Now, the other areas where, yeah, so this is activating. There's no allied unit the other side, so I believe that can be now classed as a German controlled bridge, if it wasn't already anyway. Okay, and let's see what he starts moving about. And what I'm going to just start doing here, I do this for myself with the bigger corps. Sometimes if you're moving too many units about, well, one thing I do when I move a unit, I rotate it, just to make sure I don't move it again, for one thing. I'm not going to do that. I'm following James's playthrough and I trust that he's not moving the units more than once. But one of the other things regarding roadblocks is once you've checked them in an activation, you don't need to check them again. And sometimes you might miss that out, or you might think, did I check that one, did I not check that one? So I'll maybe start putting a cube in to say that I've done a roadblock check there already, this activation. And then once the 47th Panzer Corps I've finished the activation, then take the cubes away, because other checks will need to be made on the next activation. So I might start doing that, because there's quite a few roadblock checks coming up, and looking over it, I was getting a bit muddled up myself. Right, I think there's some mix up with hex numbers as well here, so it's a little bit tricky to follow this part. He starts by activating and moving the 130 layer unit. It's got it showing starting 1315, but I'm pretty sure it is there in the town. So he's got it 1316 to 1318, so this is 1718. He mentions doing a check. Oh no, that's right, here's right, 1317, so he would have to do a check there. He rolls a 3 there, so that's good. Then he gets to here. So actually, I'll do what I said I was going to do. So there's been a check there. Then he gets to 1318. It says mention 1319. 1319 yeah. That's not 1319, is it? Yeah, that is. God. Right. So he does a check at 1319. And rolls a 5. So that's all good. And then he's going to continue. He's going for Marche, which is here. And, oh, there should actually be a fuel marker there. Don't know what happened to that. So he goes. Yeah, he moves into 1319 and then checks for 1219, which is a 4, and he rolls a 9. So all good. And 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm assuming he must move in. I don't know. I don't see him. It's a little bit muddled, this, to try and follow. Give me a sec. Yeah, so what starts to happen in this impulse, he starts to use strategic movement, German strategic movement. And the rules for that let you start moving some extra movement points with the units. Needs to be the unit needs to be in supply at the beginning of this move, on a road and not adjacent to an enemy unit. It must move through hexes connected by roads. The unit may not move adjacent to a roadblock or an enemy unit, even a unit that exerts no control. The unit may not enter an allied town or city. The unit may not cross an allied bridge. The unit may not enter a hex further west than the westernmost unit in its army, and the unit may not exit the map and may not enter a hex on the map edge. The bonuses are for German armour and mechanised infantry, their movement allowance is doubled. So this way our unit would get 10. Piper unit, for instance, would get 12. So it's either going to be 10 or 12 for the couple of units I've got at 6 movement. For infantry, it's not doubled, you just add 2. So I think all the infantry are 3 movements, so they would get an increase to 5 movement. So James starts a lot of this trying to obviously push as far west as he can. The thing is, there was also an errata brought out, but I've realised that this errata probably came out after this playthrough, so you have to say, well, it's not been said yet, so I'm pretty sure James isn't going by it, so it's either not been out or he's not noticed it or whatever. What it does, I mean, this errata is dated March the 20th, 2019, so I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm looking at the thing, it's February 2019 at the moment. So what it says is a unit conducting strategic movement can't enter a hex adjacent to an allied position if doing so would trigger a roadblock check. So you can't even make a move to do a roadblock check, let alone Yeah, you know, whereas the previous rule was you could do that, and if a roadblock appeared, you had to stop, and that was that. So anyway, that's errata, but like I say, I don't think we can use that because it was probably out after his playthrough. Now, he started here, so he actually ends up in Houghton with this move. No, he checks for Houghton. Not sure if he gets there. So he starts here, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, he's just checking for Houghton though. Maybe there's a strategic move with this one. So I might have this one wrong, because there's a few things that if he was doing strategic move he wouldn't be able to do here. So it's possibly not this one, but I think some of the ones after this maybe break certain rules. So I say it's difficult to. He moves on. So he goes into Marche. He's done a check for there. So there's been a robot check there. He gets a fuel marker. Okay. He checks for the fuel marker, and he gets fuel. He gets a yes out of that one, so that's good. And yeah, the roadblock check there was good. So yeah, German control of Marche. And then he carries on 1319 to 1219. Now there should 1319 to 1219. No, that's not right, Grant, is it? Hang on, I'm getting my numbers all. No, sorry, that was 1319 to 1219. So once he gets there, he goes 1218, does he? No, he goes 1119. So he goes from there to there, yeah. And there should be 2 checks here. I think he initially forgets about this one. But he does, I think he does check it. He gets noticed in a sec. And he rolls a 10 for the check at Houghton. So some nice roll in there. Okay, yeah. So yeah, he moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So not bad. He's not trying to use strategic movement there. It's just there is a couple coming up that he does, and I didn't notice until the movement got extended, and I've obviously realised what it was. Anyway, we'll get to that. Okay, so he then activates this infantry unit 77 in Bastogne, and I think what throws it, he's got 77 47 core starting moves, so I'm assuming he means strat moves there, and that's what was throwing me a bit at first, because it does end up moving more than its 3 hexes. So anyway, he goes 1813. Okay, again a hex number. It should be 1814 to 1915. Should be robot check there, and rolls of 5. So all good there. Well, I'll chuck that there now. It's probably not relevant, that one, but. And then he goes 1916 and needs to make a check there, and rolls a 10. So that's made 2 movements. Yeah, and then he continues 1916 to 1917. So here now he's got a robot check and a bridge check to make. He rolls But here's the thing. One of the conditions for the strategic movement is you may not cross an allied bridge. So he checks for the blown bridge. It doesn't blow, but at the moment it's still allied controlled. So he shouldn't be able to cross this bridge with strategic movement. And he's moved 1, 2, 3 to there, so he's obviously doing strategic movement when he come across there. Anyway, he misses that. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. The roadblock check. So the bridge check was good, and the roadblock check is good as well. 1916 to 1917, yeah, that's right. Oh no, I'm talking nonsense. It continues 1916 to 1917. The bridge is not blown. Okay, there's a roadblock pops up there. That's totally messing with what I'm telling you. I really find it tricky to follow this, but I mean, if I was just looking at the thing and not actually moving things about, it'd be easier, but I'm trying to record it as well. So it rolls a 2 there, so a roadblock pops up. The bridge was okay, so he's not going to get to cross that bridge. So he's then reminded of the check required at 1018 up here, and he rolls a 3, so some bit bad luck now. So a roadblock pops up there, and this is where he mentions that he missed the bridge check back here, so this bridge is blown. So it was before he started moving these units, which is good because that would have caused some trouble, I guess. So 78. So he spells it strat this time. So I could have had that one wrong last time. So apologies, James. I might just be talking nonsense. You maybe were just moving that unit normally. Anyway, so he's going to attempt to strat move with the 78 infantry. Where's that? Is that under here? Yeah. So let's see how this one goes. So he goes 1614 to 1615 for 1. That's okay, so you should have a check here. He rolls a 7, so all good. Then to 1716, so he moves into there for 2 movement points. And he needs to check the roadblock and the bridge. The bridge is good, he rolls an 8. The roadblock, there's no roadblock, he rolls a 6. So now this is possibly the one I was thinking about. So if he is strategic movement, at the moment this is his 3rd movement point anyway. So he's moving into there. 1716 to 1717. So, like I pointed out to you, a unit may not cross an allied bridge doing strategic movement. Once he gets across this bridge, it becomes his bridge. But I think you've got to decide if you're doing strategic movement at the start of the move. I would have thought, that could be wrong. I kind of think like you would be having to do it anyway. What's going on here? I'm making a right mess of this, I think. either that or he's not noticed that roadblock. He's checked 1717. He's moved 1616 to 1617. Hang on a sec, guys. Yeah, I'm making a right mess of this. So he got to 1716. He checked for the bridge. He checked for the roadblock. All was good. He then continues to 1616. So that's up the way. Okay, so now he's again got another bridge check and a roadblock check. He checks the bridge. It's good. He rolls a 4 and checks a roadblock and rolls a 7. So that's all good. So now this is where he's starting to forget about the rule about crossing an allied bridge. I'll get there eventually. We've tried to cross 2 bridges already and I've been looking at it wrong. So it says 78 continues 1616 to 1517. So this is now crossing an allied bridge. So he shouldn't be able to do this. However, hang on a sec, I'll put because we checked the roadblock there. So he shouldn't be able to do this. But I think Martin mentions it later on as well. So we'll carry on anyway. So, and then he goes 1518. And no checks required there because this one had already been checked previously. And 1417, it's actually that hex he moves into. Now there should be a roadblock check here, I think. And with that, with the crossing of the bridge, you've got to, let's say it wasn't a legal move as such, but he's now crossed that bridge and it's German controlled, so we'll put that there anyway to see. So his next move is 243, which is back here, and he talks about trying to get to St Hubert. Doesn't mention strategic move, but I'm pretty sure that's what he's using again. So let's see if we can get this one moving. So 1614 to 1615, that's 1. Then down to 1716, 2, 3, and all these checks have been made already, so I don't need to check these. 1517, 4, 1518 for 5, and then 6 down in here, so he's clearly using strategic movement. This one up to now would be technically legal, I suppose, because that's a German bridge now, but anyway, you get what I'm saying. So then he says St Hubert 1719. So yeah, he rolls for the roadblock at St Hubert and gets a 9. So open city again, and this is where he doesn't, again, forgets about the rule that you may not enter an allied town or city using strategic movement. So at the moment St Hubert is still an allied city. However, he moves into St Hubert. But just to let you know that you shouldn't really be able to do that. And St Hubert gives an R2 victory point, so I'll mark that up as well. So yeah, up to 16 victory points. Okay, so he now moves 902 where, saying that he wants to block, needs to block 0917, which is here. And then talks about the rule, movement rule 11, the exception about being able to move 1 hex, but there's not anything else that stops him from doing that anyway. It costs him 1 to leave that hex, and 4 to move into the forest. So that's all good. So there's a roadblock at 0917. Where are we? Yeah. 15, 16. Yes. Yeah, here. And this brings back, I think I mentioned before, hadn't I, that there was a bit of talk about this one, about moving from here to here. Well, first of all, let's get that out of the way. That's a definite check, and he checks that and rolls a 10. So that hex has been checked, and it's good. He doesn't check for this hex, and I think it happened earlier in the playthrough, and even I made a blunder of saying you don't need to check for that because you're moving from adjacent to it to adjacent to it. There's nothing in the rules that says you don't check for that, so there should be another check for that. One thing could be, unless it's not in supply, but I'm pretty sure it is. 1, 2, 3, yeah, I think it is. So it's a tricky one to get that one. It was brought up somewhere in the forums regarding if you were in the hex and then moved away, would you need to do a check for that? But that was John Butterfield came back and says no, that's you don't need to check for that, which does sound a bit ridiculous, really. But anyway, he's moved up there. So unless further down he does make a check for there, but I don't think he does with that one. You should still check there. So another strat move, capturing Houghton. So again, you're not allowed to do it. So can't move in an allied town. So he's obviously this totally thing with that one. Like I say, even with the errata that they brought out, that you can't even move adjacent to an allied position that would have to require a roadblock check. That might not be in this, but moving into allied towns, you can't do that. Anyway, I'll just carry on and do what he does. So it's 2 second Panzer. Is here, so 11, 11, 11, 12 to 11, 13. No, yeah, 12, 13. He's not doing a check here, but 2, 3, 4. I don't think this is in supply anyway, so I'll just carry on. 12, 14. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6. Oh, that's adjacent anyway, that's fine. That's 13, 16, so, and then 7, 8, and then capturing Houghton, like he says, but you can't do that with strategic movement. Anyway. So it was, and also another 2 victory points for capturing in the town, so up to 18, no, he's up to 20 now, yeah. Yeah, and finally he does a bridge check there and rolls a 10, so the bridge is good there. Okay, and reading on, he must have had 1 movement point left, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah. He moves to 10, 17 with the last movement point. And that all is good there. So, next, the 39th unit, this unit down here, infantry. Moves 2011 to 2012 and 2013 for 2 movement points. It needs to check here. I think he may miss that one. Yeah. So 1, 2, and then he moves 1914 for the third movement point. So I think he missed a check there because that one is in supply. This one here, when he moves to here, yeah, I think this is still in supply as well. So probably should have been a check for that as well. Anyway, moving on. 901 wire stays at 0809. That's up here. And 3 3rd Panzer goes 808 to 909 for 1, 1009 for 2, 1010 for 3, and then 1111. So interval sum for 4. Looks like he stops him there. So it mentions capturing St Hubert and Houghton. Well, there you go. But yeah, there's lots of rules that can catch you out. And he's, like I say, he mentions catching them, and he's up to now 20 points, which I've got him at 20 points right now. So yeah, so he's only spent 3 command points, so he's still got, can spend 4 before having to pass at least 4 before having to pass the impulse across the allies. And because this activation's now over, I'm going to take all the blue cubes are now irrelevant. So if any of the next units that he activates move into any of the hexes and they're still eligible for a roadblock check, they need to be checked again. So I'll take them off. Okay, so the next card and well, last activation of his first impulse is card 50. Activate the 58th Corps. Got 4 units to move, he says, so 560, which is down here, moves him 1711 to 1811. So 1 to 1911 to 2011, 2 and then 3. Should be a check for here and here. I'm not sure if he picks it up or not. Yeah, I'll move on. 60 unit, right. I'm guessing he strategically moves this because there's a lot of numbers here. So 1210 to 1111 to 1112. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I think these hexes that we're passing are probably out of allied supply, so hence the reason not to still check for roadblocks. So where is he in? He's in 12, 13, so then he goes 12, 14, 12, 15. 13, 16, 13, 17, 13, 18, and 13, moving into 13, 18. Oh yeah, he does do a check, and it's a 4, so nothing turns up there. And then he finishes in 13, 19. So with that move, that's just to say the roadblock's been checked there. With that strategic move, he didn't cross any allied bridges or try and get into any allied towns. So that would have been fine. However, with the errata, that last move into that hex there to check the roadblock, you wouldn't be able to do that. So your strategic move would have had to end here or it could have maybe moved up here. But anyway, just to let you know that because of that errata. But again, the errata was after this playthrough, so that's fair enough. So then the 156 moves 12, 10, 11, 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and again no checks required here because there's no supply traceable. So where am I? 12, 15, so then it goes 11, 16, 10, 16, oh I'm going the wrong way, 11, 16, 10, 16, and ends at 9, 17. So again, that strategic move is fine, doesn't cross any allied bridges, doesn't go through any allied towns, and he does a roadblock check at 817, which is here, and unfortunately rolls a 3, so a roadblock pops up there. And next he moves 16, 116 Panzer unit, joining 60, so he does the same strat move to join this unit here. Yeah. And that's him. I don't think he moved. Did he move this armoured unit? Did I miss that? Oh, just double check. Yeah, possibly actually forgot about this unit himself, maybe. Because he mentioned only having 4 units to move, and he's moved 4 units. Unless maybe he didn't want to move that unit at all. Okay, so that ends the German impulse. That's him spent 5 command points now. So 4 was the threshold to pass over to the Allies. So we'll see what the Allies do next. Okay, it draws the Allied card. This is when Martin mentions the strategic move errors he's been making, and I think he maybe tries to go back and fix them. Let me see if we can. I didn't realise he was going to do this. Okay, so 78 has to stop at 1616. What is that? 78. Where is he? Where are you? Yeah, so he brings back 78 to 1616, which is back here. Laroche is in German control at start of activation, so I think that's 2-second Panzer strat move might be okay. So I will have him at 10-17. That's the guy up here, is it? Okay, so he's just leaving him there. He thinks the move must have been illegal. I can't recall. There was a couple that did break the rules. and basically shouldn't really have the two towns, Houghton and is it St Hubert, I think. 16,116 Panzer will end at 1418. 1418. Right, I'm not quite sure who's come up with that one, but and 60 is alone at 1319. Right, he says he just keeps things in. I'm not sure, like I say, the two towns that have been taken, I don't think were taken with strategic moves, so anyway, let's have a look, see what happens next. Okay, there's a bit of chit chat and he decides to correct 2nd Panzer stopping at 1118 instead of where he is. Where's 1118, 16, 17? It's here, it's Houghton. Yeah, well. Anyway. Right, let's just get over the Allies now. They drew card 20. So he's got deploy 101st Airborne and 9th Armour. So there is a 9th Armour and there's 401st Airborne units. So they'll be coming out somewhere. I'll pause now and have a look and see what James comes up with and see what we think. Okay, first of all, before I try and find where these reserves go, I don't think he's accounting for the 9th Armour unit that I've still got in the reserve units box anyway, so I'm not quite sure what's happened to him. I might be wrong, and if I am, I'll come back to that, but it's just rather than look at things, if that 9th Armour unit's there, that's the first selector number, or the lowest selector number, before these infantry units. So it does look like he's just considering the 101st Airborne, so we'll go with that at the moment. Okay, had a look about, there's some discussion about where the unit should go. I actually thought there was a candidate here it was, but this is surroundable, this hex. So there's actually no units. There's plenty of places where within the core area, by the way, the core area for the 8 core is that line there. Okay, you can't see that line there, but it's that line there. So it needs to be south of that line. So there's no Allied units in that area, so it kind of narrows down the priorities. Like I say, we could go into method B here, which had not been through before, but whether we can get there after the first placement. Method A says check empty position hex in the unit's core area, able to trace Allied supply. I've got this green cube here. This is where James says he reckons the first unit should go. So it's an empty position hex, it's in the unit's core area, it's able to trace Allied supply. A German unit is proximate to it. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not in danger zone, it's not in a German held city or town, and it's not adjacent to an Allied unit. So let's just say, that position is probably feasible as well. So if there's more than one position within 3 hexes of a unit in the same division, if not possible within 3 hexes of a unit in the same corps, if not possible within 3 hexes of a unit in the same army, a lot of them are, there's no units nearby. The only units are down in the southeast corner here, and there's no German units proximate to any position hexes here, apart from the likes of this one, which is surroundable, so he's not going to put that there. So if the last priority within 3 hexes of a unit in the same army, if that's not possible, or if there's more than one position, I kind of missed that out and made a query about it before. What do you do then? Do you go into the other army? And I got a reply from John Butterfield saying that no. And right enough, it says on the play the raid card there, if not possible, or if more than one position. So if it's not possible, then you just look at the highest hold value hex. And if there's more than one westernmost, if there's more than one closest to a German unit. So I think James is right here. It looks like that's the candidate for the first, and it makes sense trying to stop the German advance going west. So yeah, this has got a hold value of 5. There's another 5 up here, but that's above this is the core deployment area, so that one's out. So yeah, so I think we'll put the 501 101st Airborne into Rochefort, is it? Okay. So then, because we've got this guy here now, you're really looking for a hex within 3 of him that is still follows all the other conditions that we just explained for placing the next reserve unit. I almost had a wee cube up here, but again, this is just north of the core area, so that one's not applicable because all these are 2s. So they're all in Allied supply, they're all within 3 of this unit, they're all proximate to a German unit. And then going down the list, they're all got a hold value of 2, so then you go westernmost. So this is the westernmost hex, so I think this is where this one goes. And that's where James puts them, and I agree. So yeah, the next one for the 506 of the 104th Airborne, I had this hex marked previously, but because this was more westernmost, we had this hex, and this hex. We can't go here now though because it's adjacent to an Allied unit, and that's one of the conditions that stops that from happening. So the 506 goes into 1620, and now just one more unit to get placed. So for the last placement, there's 2 hexes that are within 3 of this unit. This unit's proximate to them. It's possible this one is in danger of surround, although they're both 2 hold values, so in fact it is in danger of surround. This unit moves here, this unit moves 1, 2, so that's not applicable anyway. So yeah, I think it is. I think the last unit gets placed in hex 1921. So you can see that once the Allies get deploying, they start forming a line to stop the big push west. So that would then make things a bit tougher to get to the Meuse River for the Germans. Unfortunately now, this is when things come to an end. Martin eventually brings up the fact that strategic movement, although he breaks it into him gently. He mentions about not crossing Allied bridges first, and then a wee bit later, well, just now he's mentioning you also can't go into Allied towns. So James, I think, holds his hands up and says, too many straws, the game is broken. He's 2-4-3, United cannot enter St Hubert, and anyway, he decides to end the game here, which is a shame because I think his strategy is really good, and I suppose if you look at the things that have happened here that maybe shouldn't have happened, they might have been a bit further back, but to try and rewind all that, it's a bit much, right enough. So he decides to leave the game there. Hopefully he'll come back one day and try it again, make another session report. It's well done. I've struggled with this last one on the 18th. Seems to... I think the way he had it written this time, it was difficult. I'm turning around to look at a screen as well as trying to record it and move pieces about, so I maybe could do a better setup for trying these things in the future. But I hope he comes back and tries it again, maybe tries the Allied solo version, which I had a chat with him and he hasn't played that yet, so which is, it's a different game altogether, really. It's good. Anyway, I'll hopefully get this last video put up. I think I've struggled through this one a bit, and maybe it doesn't come out too clear, so hopefully it's not too boring to look through. And my plan is to maybe start one of my own, and you can see how I get on. I'll probably find certain things easier because I'm not trying to follow somebody else's playthrough, but it's all going to be my thinking about what I'm doing next. So there'll be big pauses in the camera. I'll not be playing it right through. You won't want to see me pondering over what I'm wanting to do. Just to finish off, James says he's going to end the game here and his personal goals have been met, he says. 1, actually played through a few days. 2, wanted to see how the bulge would be created, which I think the 47th are the best. It's probably, everybody probably uses them to try and bulge through. And 3, allied unsupplied effects in action. Yeah. And he says he learned a few things. Around.Hex event, strategic movement, of course, and the value of card 38, which is the Piper card that on the 17th the Piper can ignore zone of controls, and the 18th, I think it is, the 150 unit can ignore them. It is a really good card. You want to make use of that if you can, if you get the chance. Anyway, I'll leave it there. This was more also a bit of a, just to see how I got on trying to record things and how it looked. And obviously I've watched the videos back, and although I cringe at listening to myself, seems to look okay. There was a few times I was doing things off camera, but I think everybody gets a bit of that. You get carried away. Anyway, I'll leave things for now, and hopefully I'll have a wee go at this myself someday soon. Fingers crossed. Okay, cheers all.